Once upon a time, there was a sensible, straight line who was hopelessly in love with a dot. You're the beginning and the end, the hub, the core and the quintessence, he told her tenderly. But the frivolous dot wasn't a bit interested, for she only had eyes for a wild and unkempt squiggle who never seemed to have anything on his mind at all. They were everywhere together, singing and dancing and frolicking and laughing and Lord knows what else. He's so gay and free, so uninhibited and full of joy, she cried rapturously. And you're as stiff as a stick, dull, conventional and repressed, tied and trammeled, subdued, smothered and stifled, squashed, squelched and quenched. Why take chances, the line argued without much conviction. I'm dependable, steady, consistent. I know where I'm going. I've got dignity. But this was small consolation for the miserable line. Each day he grew more and more morose. He stopped eating or sleeping, and before long was completely on edge. His worried friends noticed how terribly thin and drawn he was and did their best to cheer him up. She's not good enough for you. She lacks depth. They all look alike anyway. Why don't you find a nice straight line and settle down? But he hardly heard a word they said. For anyway he looked at her, she was perfect. He saw things in her that no one else could possibly imagine. She's more beautiful than any straight line I've ever seen, he sighed wistfully. But even allowing for his feelings, this was probably stretching a point. And so he spent his time dreaming of the inconstant dot and imagining himself as the forceful figure she was sure to admire. The line as a celebrated daredevil. The line as a leader in world affairs. The line as a fearless law enforcement agent. The line as a potent force in the world of art. The line as an international sportsman. But he soon grew tired of self-deception and decided that perhaps the squiggle might have had the answer after all. I lack spontaneity. I must learn to let go, to be free, to express the inner passionate me. But it didn't make any difference, for no matter how often or how hard he tried, he always ended up the same way. And yet he continued trying and failing and trying again until, when he had all but given up, he discovered at last that with great concentration and self-control, he was able to change direction and bend wherever he chose. So he did, and made an angle. And then again, and made another, and then 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 another. Hot stuff, he shouted, much impressed with his efforts, and in a wild burst of enthusiasm, sat up for half the night, putting on an outrageous display of sides, bends, and angles. Freedom is not a license for chaos, he observed the next morning. Oh, what a head! There and then he decided not to squander his talents in cheap exhibitionism. For months he practiced in secret. Soon he was making squares and triangles, hexagons, parallelograms, rhomboids, polyhedrons, trapezoids, parallel pipets, decagons, tetragrams, and an infinite number of other shapes, so complex that he had to letter his sides and angles to keep his place. Before long, he'd learned to carefully control ellipses, circles, and complex curves, and to express himself in any shape he wished. You name it, I'll play it. But all his successes meant nothing to him alone, and so off he went to seek the dot once again. You again, muttered the squiggle in a voice that sounded like bad plumbing. You don't stand a chance. But the line was bursting with old love and new confidence, and he was not to be denied, for now he was dazzling. Clever. Mysterious. Versatile. Erudite. Eloquent. Profound. Enigmatic. Complex. And compelling. The dot was overwhelmed. She giggled like a schoolgirl and didn't know what to do with her hands. Then she turned to the squiggle, who had suddenly developed a severe cramp. Well, she inquired, trying to give him every chance. The squiggle, taken by surprise, did the best he could. Is that all? She demanded. I guess so, replied the miserable squiggle. That is, I suppose so. What I mean is I never know how it's going to turn out. Hey, have you heard the one about the two guys who... Dot wondered why she'd never noticed how hairy and coarse he was, how untidy and graceless, and how he mispronounced his L's and picked his ear. And suddenly she realized that what she thought was freedom and joy was nothing but anarchy and sloth. You are as meaningless as a melon, she said coolly. Undisciplined, unkempt and unaccountable, insignificant, indeterminate and inadvertent. Out of shape, out of order, out of place, and out of luck. With that, she turned to the line and shyly took his arm. Do the one with all the funny curves again, honey, she cooed softly. And he did, and soon they did, and lived, if not happily ever after, at least reasonably so.
status quo were somehow no longer relevant.
You are listening
What
to
if we were
Urban
faced with a
Alchemy
new medium,
360.
a new network, a new system that connected the people and places of the world in a new way?
Urban Alchemy 360.
What if that system is here?
Hey, so yeah, I just wanted to just ask you, first of all, it's nice to meet you. I've not met you before. I've always been interested to put a name to a face. But yeah, Stacy, so with Stacy, I'm having some issues with Stacy not being as attentive. She's just, are you at home? Are you working, or?
I do what I do.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're not working, or? Well, it's so nice to meet you. It is so nice to meet you, Mr. Jones.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, so just to tell you about your son, he is doing an amazing job. I'm very impressed with his listening skills.
I can listen to you all day.
Okay, thank you.
Boy's doing something right, huh?
Thank you. Now back to his listening skills.
Okay, Miss, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I
You can hear me now?
I can
Okay.
hear you now.
Okay, baby, because
Yeah.
baby, I don't know how to
She
work
can
this
still
thing
hear
yet.
you.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Why is they calling
Okay.
us? Why can't I just call him? Why we got to do this here on the computer?
okay,
Here.
okay.
I don't even know who this man is.
Well,
I've been working with a lady
I mean,
the
I
whole
wish
time.
we
I don't know
could
who
call
this
you,
is.
but this is how we're communicating
I
now.
don't use my landline no more. Y'all can just call me.
Unfortunately.
Okay. All right. So, I'm just a little concerned because Stacy is just not, she normally has a lot of Legos and she just is not prepared for class. She doesn't have her pen and pencil. She doesn't have her login information. And I emailed you. Did you receive the email?
I ain't get it.
Okay. Okay. Well, do you know how to message? Like, you can chat if you want to. Okay. Well, I see you and Stacy are a lot alike. So he's really good with listening.
What's your
and
number,
following
though? So
instructions.
we can just talk
Especially with us being
talk a little
virtual
bit deeper
now.
about everything,
Oh no! I don't give out my personal number. You can email me. You can message me on Dojo, Class Dojo. Did you guys download the Class Dojo app?
We didn't get that.
Oh no!
Do I
You
need your
don't
number,
need
though?
my personal number for
I need your
that.
number
You
for that?
you just can download the app. Okay. You can feel free to message me anytime before 7 p.m. and I will respond.
So 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I cut it off at 7. I cut it off at
that's
7.
kind of early.
Yeah. Lord have mercy. I don't understand this stuff right here. Quite.
All right, so first
frustrating.
we're just gonna get into talking about your granddaughter and how she's been
My
doing.
granddaughter,
in
yeah,
school.
how she doing? I don't remember which child we talking about. I got all my grandchildren
Well, yeah,
around here now.
she hasn't been doing the best, and
Okay, she's not doing
wanted
good.
to let you know.
Where my shoe at? Cause see, yeah, I just was wondering, if maybe you had time to actually, kind of talk to me and, let me know what's going on. I really think Stacy has potential to do very well this school year. Okay. All right.
I'm gonna talk to you a little bit.
Like I was saying, so he's really good with following instructions.
At least 10,
especially with us being virtual.
Down.
Okay, Mr. Jones,
Okay,
I don't mean any disrespect. We're gonna have to move on to his academics because I do have a couple of other parents who are waiting in queue now for their conference.
No, you just don't know. Okay.
You know what?
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I know you gotta go. Okay.
We're gonna end it here.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. So you're not.
We've been working on them and them 10 frames and all that stuff. Y'all been the nonsense. I don't know why y'all just can't add the regular way.
Some information
We've been working,
on everything
so I don't understand what the problem is.
Have covered with her.
Okay,
so
but you going to start. I think I asked, who are you?
Yeah.
Who exactly are you? Because see.
Okay.
I don't know who you are,
I
sir.
can still hear you.
Sir, I know you can hear me.
All right.
Okay. You have a good one. You all right. You too. God bless. Put this camera on.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Got School. My name's Adria Fox, the It Girl, and that was funny. I can't laugh. I got to get my laugh out. That was funny. We keep it a little light in the beginning because, hey, we've got school, and I get it. We've got school. And as a parent of 3 children, homeschooling 2 this year, it's not been an easy road. So I get that you have questions and you want answers and you need resources. So Got School was literally curated just for us to get the resources we need in this challenging time to maybe even have opportunity to reform education in a time that's instrumental to our children's education. So we have school. This forum is for you. So I'm going to bring on our co-host, Steph Groce. What's up, Steph?
What up, Adria?
That was funny. I know that was funny. We got to keep it light, right? Our parents need us to do that. Would you agree?
They absolutely do. Because not only do we have school, because we got school, but we have resources too. And those resources are oftentimes very, very heavy. So by us keeping it light, it keeps it nice and airy and keeps the conversation flowing.
Absolutely. So Steph, we have an opportunity right now to really transform school like never before. And I'm super excited to bring on our homeschool teacher and our guest this week. I think this week's show is going to really help us rethink what's going on the back end.
Absolutely. But before we do that, we should actually talk about Tony Wagner, because what happened with Tony last week, there were a number of takeaways that he left us with. I thought that Robin Lockhart left us with a lot. I thought that Dave Farrell and his wife left us with a ton. But last week, Wagner, the author, left us with a couple of brain teasers for sure.
Right. So I'm going to let you give yours. What did you learn last week?
So it's all about students like critical thinking. It's really about them staying curious. And my takeaway was inspiring our children to really continue that imagination and just exploring and just being inquisitive about everything that they're learning. Because as they ask questions, they begin that critical thinking process, which leads into that decision making in the right direction, and just really focused on getting their hands and their brain immersed into what that topic is.
I agree. You know, one of the other things is that we're in the new era. So what we were used to learning, you know, in the traditional for the last 100 years of how education's rolled out, those skill sets are really not the number one thing needed in today's workplace. Like, yes, we need to memorize, we need to know the culture and the background, but really innovation is the key. And so teaching kids how to be critical thinkers and innovate on ideas is what Tony said that people are asking for in corporate America right now.
Because really, we're in the middle of the innovation economy, you know, and being an entrepreneur and being an innovator, it's really about risk, but not risk in terms of liability, but risk in terms of knowledge. And it's risk in terms of learning more and going beyond what we currently know to exist, right?
Right. So. And then when he said, okay, well, let's see if you can Google the elements, right? The periodic table, and we're thinking of, he's like, yeah, well, before you can even, whatever you learned, whatever's up here, when I go to Google it, there's 3 or 4 more added, which made me remember that the knowledge age really has opened up such a wide variety and opportunity for teachers, learners, and educators. And so it's a really interesting time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And right now, everything is available to us, every resource, and virtually free, mind you. And so everything's at our fingertips as long as we're willing to put in that effort. And that's the other thing he said, making the effort to make, positive direction and knowledge.
And the other thing that I learned from reading his book, Learning by Heart, was the life experiences, right? He had been called an F up, but he still found a teacher that cared enough about him. That's another common thing throughout our things, community and teachers and educators and people in your life who care, getting a hold of someone who actually taught him how to become a creative writer. So then he became an English teacher out of the love of learning literature. So I think sometimes even today, we forget that our life experiences are what at the end of the day really mold us.
Right. And even as an educator who, at Harvard, which he is, he also had to get a teacher to help him write his books, which is even more impressive because here he is experienced, seasoned, throughout the world, but he still has to have a teacher. And so that goes back to that constant and never ending improvement and really having a mentor or educator that can stimulate that lifelong learning that we all really, really need.
So Steph, let's bring on Maria. I missed her last week. I'm super excited to get what her tips are for the week. They really are so valuable. Welcome, Maria.
Maria.
Hello, guys.
Maria,
how are you all?
How are you?
Thank you for having me back.
Well, always. We couldn't do this without you. Your pro tips are really helping a lot of people. I need you to know that.
And you're a resident homeschool mom. An advocate.
I'm glad.
So give us
it's a pleasure
tips,
to be
girl.
a part of this team. So my first tip is love notes. I've always given my son love notes throughout all his homeschool tenure. But I found now he needs it more than ever. Even though he's been homeschooled forever, it's still important to stay in tune with how your children are feeling and what they're doing. So when I send him his independent study, every day I send him his independent study so he knows what to do. And I always encourage him at the end, like, you got this, you did wonderfully today. I was impressed by you today. Mommy's so proud of your brilliance. And even if it's things that he needs to improve upon, I just let him know, hey, you have tomorrow. If you just keep going, you're going to get it because you always do. So I think love notes are one of the most important things a parent can do for their babies through homeschooling, just in general. And then my second tip is to highlight your own value system. The beauty of homeschooling is that you can teach your children what it is you'd like for them to know and what the kind of character building that you like to see in your child. So I have a quick clip of what I am talking about when we did summer enrichment one summer with my son and my niece. So take a look at what I'm talking about. Reliability.
Reliability, if you have a cool world and you did fun stuff, and you have trains and Wi-Fi and,
baby,
and the money and the
baby, that's sustainability. Yeah, sustainability. What's reliability? That's
reliability. Okay. If you don't see nothing and the cloud just pops.
Oh my God! Cut.
Oh my God!
Atta, what is reliability?
Reliability means that you can depend on someone and that they can trust you and you can be trustworthy.
Okay, thank you. So, Karindru, what is reliability?
If someone lies on you.
Okay, goodbye. so she was almost there. She was almost there.
If someone lies on you.
Yeah, she heard lie and reliability, so she just went with what she knew, right?
Yeah.
But we went over different words every single week that talked about reliability, that talked about being honest, that talked about being compassionate. And these are the things that you get to incorporate in your curriculum now that you're in charge, the things that are important to you and your family and your value system. And so number 3 is, if your child is struggling, find a win. I know sometimes that my son has some issues with math. And so instead of giving him 20 hard questions, I'll give him 10. And then I'll give him, of the 10, maybe 3 really easy ones so he can build up his confidence. And I'll do those first and then put them, inside the questions so he can continue to get some wins. Because sometimes there is a struggle. Sometimes there is a disconnect. It could be the way that you're teaching, and it could be the way that maybe it's something that your child isn't understanding, or they need you to try a different method. They need some math or something like that versus just visually seeing things. So you have to tap into how your child learns. And then if you find that they're struggling, you just got to weave in some wins in there to build up their confidence so that they know that they can overcome any struggle that comes in their way. So those are my tips.
Woo!
Those are some good takeaways right there. Those are great tips.
Those are great tips. I think I'm sending Amaya to you for the session where we need to.
The summer enrichment?
Yes, summer enrichment. Yeah, it sounds like, she'll, We're going to have to do that.
Send her on over. I'd love to have her.
Hey, I just want to dovetail on that. It's probably important to send love notes to your significant other as well, because keep in mind they're going through this with us, right?
Absolutely. You may need a substitute teacher, so get on that good side.
Right.
Exactly.
I think a lot of parents are co-parenting and co-educating, depending on the work situation. You just we got to do it together. Awesome tips, Maria. Thank you for being here. I know you're going to stick around for our guests.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Speaking of our guests, thank you, Maria. But speaking of our guests, we have another phenomenal guest today on our show at God School. Again, it's so humbling. I often stammer because we have such impactful speakers, right? We do such a good job at cultivating not only the content and resources that we provide here at God School, but our speakers come from depth and just our SMEs, subject matter experts and everything.
Yes.
And today we have Dr. William Jackson. And Dr. Jackson, he's an educational leader focused on building equitable schools and schools communities for scholars, stakeholders, and school community members, and he's building them so they can thrive. Dr. Jackson is currently serving as a principal at Nathan Hale High School in Seattle, Washington, where he's focused on building a 21st century skills through project-based solutions and culturally responsive teaching through a digital approach. And there's a lot going on there, and he's got a lot to offer us, and we're going to talk about a lot of that today. But more importantly, we want to honor him and celebrate him because he recently earned his doctorate in education from the University of Washington, and that makes him a Husky for all the collegiate fans out there, in a leadership program with a focus on educational leadership and policy, which also includes his superintendent credential. And so we're super excited. I just want to celebrate him, give him a round of applause for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Jackson, the floor is yours. And Adria and I have a few questions because we want to get to know you a lot more in a lot deeper detail.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But first, I will say I graduate in June of 2021. So I appreciate that. You're putting it into the universe. You're giving me the love. We're right there. So that's great.
We speak it into existence.
That's
sir.
right. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
For the final year, though. So yeah.
Awesome. Final year. Well, thank you for being here. And I just want to say, William, I grew up with my mother being a principal and then assistant superintendent during some major transitions in education through the 70s and then the 80s and 90s. However, the shift that we're in right now is like none other in history. And so far, our guests have had a variety of different scopes of experts, but we haven't had a principal that can really tell us what's going on behind the scenes. So, can you give our viewers some information on what's been going on since March, and how did your school make the transition into distance learning?
Sure. We can kind of, if I have the opportunity to share a few ways in which this happened, because there was the immediate transition into digital learning, and that was emergency learning, and that was from March through June. And then once we launched the school year this year, I would say that's like remote learning 2.0, where we're a little bit more up to speed. This is also framed around twin pandemics. We do have our coronavirus crisis that just hit us in March, along with anti-Black racism that's been just so profound and pronounced throughout our nation. And so these two things happen in every social movement, and every movement that happens around the nation always shows up in our schools. And so what happened immediately once we began our distant learning, the first priority was just food and basic needs for families of essential need. It's almost like it's almost as if we were looking at Maslow's hierarchy of need. What is most important? And then we were kind of relying on what's the process? What are we going to do here? But we wanted to connect with families, connect with students, and everyone was just really putting in their soul into building a collective capacity for learning. But not every student had laptops. Not every student had resources. So then we had to launch the laptop distribution, and this is where emergency learning was coming around. And what was really powerful is once we got things up and going. This is where the 21st century learning piece comes in. Our students really ran with this, that agency, that creativity and design, the critical thinking and problem solving skills. We have a Black Student Union, a coalition of Asian Pacific students, and a Pride Club. And many of these three groups put together marches, assemblies online, marches in our community. There was the Black Student Union and our Pride Club did intersectionality assembly online of the intersections between being both Black and LGBTQ. Our coalition of Asian Pacific students during I believe it's Asian Pacific History Month. They did an assembly on the binary between Black and white binary, where their history in America often hasn't been celebrated. And so this really pushed us to see, look at this brilliance. This is amazing. And also this is really exciting. How can we take this into next year? And so that's where we did have some exciting things that happened right before our graduation. We had a drive-through graduation. Our seniors put on, it's crazy, right? Our seniors put on a march through the community demanding racial justice, because that was the same day. Well, not the same day, but Tamir Rice was supposed to graduate in 2019, and he didn't have an opportunity to graduate because he was tragically murdered. And so this group, which goes into a later question, which I'm excited to talk about, is this Generation Z group, very active nature. They really pushed us. This took us into the summertime where we had to take a little bit of a break, because that drove us. That was exciting, but also there were some things that we had to work through as educators. And so during the summer, I was working through with our professional development team, racial equity team, with students, and we were understanding where these twin pandemics were really impacting us and our sense of belonging. And so I really launched the year. This is where the social emotional learning, the care, compassion, love, and that's where we focused on the 5 stages of grief, and how all of us in America or around the world, in one way or the other, are experiencing grief, and how this time has impacted us. So we launched the year focused on that. And then we went into our digital launch. And so that's been a really a productive launch to the year. Specifically with our digital launch, 3 things was social emotional learning, racial equity focus, and technology tools.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that transition.
Thank you. So you really used cultural sensitivity as a basically not only a pedagogy, but just really an opportunity for students to connect through learning by understanding their cultural challenges.
Completely.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Cool. So then the next thing I want to know from you is, what are the 3 things that you took from that lesson, having to have this emergency response and carrying that over into the launch of the school year?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is communication to families and community. There were so many messages that I've sent out where I say, I don't know where we're at right now, but I'm right there with you. Just being honest and communicative, and being caring about it, and saying we're in this together. If you have an opportunity, can you fill out this form, this Microsoft form? This can give us some understanding on what your needs are, but we do not necessarily have a direction that we're going to go, but we just want to know how you're doing. The second thing is understanding and analyzing our needs. That goes into kind of doing some formative assessment, assessing how we're doing, assessing how our community's doing. Where we got the idea of our cultural learning around each other was essentially our staff and our community members were letting us know where they were at. They were struggling with this. And so I obviously, as a principal, I wanted to just launch and let's get it and let's go and we can kind of power through this. But I had to take a step back and reflect and say, you know what, that's not appropriate. The best thing we can do is focus on ourselves and really build our capacity so we can be the best for others. And then lastly, the overall instructional capacity. That's way better than it was in March because we've had opportunities and time to grow our instructional capacity online. So.
You know, your feedback loop, I think that's something that's really lost on a lot of principals in school districts because they don't put a lot of stock and trust into the feedback. And I know, you know, speaking of San Diego Unified, to speak bluntly, they artificially inflate that feedback. They identify specific friends and family who may be supportive of the leadership, and they only get feedback from there. They don't ask for organic, like real-time, parent-engaged, parent-engrossed feedback, and I think that's a challenge. So I'm happy to hear that that's what you did up there. You took that approach.
So you also seem to have this culture of trust and community within your school. And the National Center for Urban School Transformation says that that's the number one thing for schools to succeed is to have trust and culture and community. And I'm just, wow, blown away that these kids literally took on themselves to adapt and innovate on the challenge that was before them. It sounds like they didn't waste any time.
Not at all. They ran with it. We were behind them.
Stay on this approach. The recent fires, you know, you talk about the twin pandemics and all of a sudden you have this natural disaster that kind of comes overarching all of it. You know, how did you guys react to that?
Well, that was, I appreciate you asking. That happened the second week of school and we're not in school. I wouldn't even know how we would respond to that. But I will say this, something that is inspiring about our school and inspiring about some of our students, we do have Climate Justice Club, Climate Action. That's really big with this generation and with the students that are in our school. So they've been forecasting this for quite some time in this type of environment. And so our teachers took this on as learning approaches as well, and especially with our horticulture club and other horticulture class and other our physics class and other sciences, just kind of examining where climate injustice intersects with racial injustice, intersects with all of our social injustices, and what is our call to action? That's
right.
So I was watching a video that you did in May, and you were talking about Gen Z. Do you think that Gen Z is more prepared for distance learning than the previous generation?
But before you answer that, though, I just want to kind of jump on that. They call themselves Gen Z, and we've identified them here as Gen Z. But before this year, they were the lockdown generation. And so as we've just perpetuated from the lockdown generation into Gen Z, which is the COVID generation, please, I mean, I'm just throwing it all out there at you right now.
Yeah, no, that's really funny. And I would say I would put it like this. When COVID hit, it was a knee-jerk reaction. It all hit us as educators, families, parents, guardians, and they weren't hit as hard by it. Every day for their, as they show up and arrive in their space, they're seeing so much crisis and challenge and things happening on their social media every single day. So for us, it was like, whoa, what is this? For them, it was just another day.
Wow.
And so that's where I would say that trauma has probably impacted them more than we are aware of, but they have responded in ways that we weren't ready for. So I would say distant learning, they're not they were perfectly fine with this from how I'm learning from them.
So you think it's because they're more resilient because they
Yeah.
see trauma so much more often that they're, it's almost like, unfortunately, like in television, I'm imagining a cartoon character, right? And, he falls down, he gets bopped over the head by Bugs Bunny, and then all of a sudden he pops up. So do you think it's that's going on in their psyche?
Absolutely. And even so, they led our, some would call it the rebellion, some would call it the protests. They were the leaders of this movement, this Black Lives Matter movement in the spring. And right now, they're the ones taking charge and calling action and making demands. And so there's a resiliency to this group that for a long time, I didn't understand. I was like, get off your phones. Why are you always connected? Disconnect. But this has brought them together in a way that we're learning. And I'd say it is resiliency.
So do you think they're adapting? Because what I noticed, because I have a high schooler and a junior high school, is they're so connected, right? So even in the distance learning, we're normally in a classroom, you wouldn't have your phone out. Like, so I tried, trust me, I tried. I was like, I lost that battle. I lost that battle.
Yes.
So what are you finding? Are your teachers having are the teachers having a challenge with this new way and trying to communicate with them of how to be present?
Thank you for that question. I was going to back that up.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny because one of the things that I would observe that students are doing in this Gen Z, they're reclaiming their power. They're reclaiming their authority. We do want students to turn their cameras on, and they won't turn their cameras on if they don't need to. We want them to engage in a certain way, and they'll engage in the way that they want to engage. And so it's almost a hierarchical balancing that they're creating and forcing the hand of in this space, which is hilarious as a sociological experience.
Yeah, I noticed that in my own household.
Very challenging.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the things that Maria said, and it actually kind of ties back to what you're saying. Do you find that sometimes as parents get in the way?
Yes. I would say in regard to high school, we did, again, back to the feedback. We asked students essentially, who do you want involved in your life? Especially when we're doing outreach and when we want your families to come in the building and to check out all the great projects you're doing. They said, no, I want my friends here. My parents have given me so much agency, and this is us. These are families that look like us. Yeah. Okay, these are our black children. They said, no, my mom gives me agency. I actually want to share that with her at home. She can come to the school if she wants, but I'm fine. I want to go to the teacher. I want to go to the principal. I want to tell them how I feel. And so we have this different feeling and understanding about family engagement, and they'll tell us something. They'll express to us what they want family engagement to look like. I still think family engagement should be families coming to the building personally, but that's my own piece.
Yeah, I think that is a Gen Z / late millennial thing. I noticed that I have an 18-year-old, and I noticed that he's just like, he forgot to tell me that when the graduation was for junior high school. He's like, I'm like, they're calling me. They're like, he's graduating. Like, he's on. Are you coming? And I'm like, he never even told me.
That's so indicative of this group. I hate to box them in, but yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I guess I got to be prepared for that with the other two. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
The other thing I like about Got School and having these great presenters and special guests is I have elementary school kids. And so you guys continually forecast the future for me. So I get the benefit of kind of crafting and navigating all of this. So Adria, thank you very much.
You got a short window. Let me just say that. You got a short window, and your three are really sharp. So your window of that molding and telling them what to do is about maybe like 1 more year.
I don't even know if it's that, because the conversations this morning, they were kind of, even my 5-year-old, she kind of just looked at me like, are you for real right now?
Like, what are you doing all up in my education? Like, I got this.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, you're dealing with 9-12, right? That's your primary grades there in high school up in Seattle? 9-12. So one of the questions that we recently came up with back in episode 6, I think it was, is we wanted to ask our guest, what 3 books should a high schooler read that are not mandatory? Because and the reason that we're asking this is because there's a number of studies out there that what they're actually learning beyond, their current curriculum could actually have a much more deeper impact on their lives. And so we just want to know, what 3 books would you recommend that a high schooler read that are not mandatory?
Sure. I would say for financial literacy, a fun book that I like is The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yes.
That's my first classic.
Agreed.
I've read it about 7 times.
I'm on 5.
I follow the laws. That's a part of my life. So yes, absolutely. For racial understanding of being Black in America, I love Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. That's a good one. It's a tough. There's a lot of scaffolding that will be necessary, but for our homes, that would be a good one. And then for Afrofuturity, I think The Parable of the Sower. That's by Octavia Butler. That's a really good one that I love as well. So just 3 different spaces that could expand the mind at that age.
Well, I like that you put financial literacy. That was the first book you thought of, because that's one thing that we definitely need our kids to know, is to have some financial literacy education. So
Absolutely.
Awesome. We'll make sure we post those books in the feed when we share this out. Yeah, thank you so much. So final thoughts.
Well, real quick, I'd like to remind a lot of our viewers and our listeners, if they're tuning in right now for the first time, or if they're listening repeat, use the links below. Just hyperlink to the resources, because we think that that's very important. And you can get the direct information about all of our guests on our show. So, but back to your final thoughts. I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
Yes.
No, I appreciate you having me.
Maria, you're back.
I appreciate you having me and inviting me on. You all are doing amazing work, and I'm now going to tune in more and subscribe. Actually, this is super cool. We're doing the good fight, all of us, and this is unprecedented time, as everyone has said. But educators are resilient, families are resilient. It's been 5 generations since education has taken a turn, and family household have spent this much time with their children. So when we lose this, when we go back, we are going to lose something. So how can we keep all of the beauty, brilliance, and strength that we've gained during this time, capitalizing on the gains? And so that is a strength-based approach. I do try to carry that. But yeah, we're everyone's doing a great fight in education. That's how I would like to conclude.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And so, Maria, what's up, sis? What are you up to in the world? You're always up to something fabulous. I'm waiting to hear.
Yeah. So we're starting an I Am challenge at I Am Green, because we believe that I am two of the most powerful words in the universe, right? And so a lot of times we see different memes, we see a lot of social media telling us who we are. And we're going to reclaim our power and decide who we're going to be and who we are. And so we're going to be doing an I Am challenge. And that's going to be coming up in the month of October and the month of November at I Am Green. I kind of kicked it off with I Am Protected, I Am Respected, and I Am Love, to kind of break up that narrative that I am not. So that's what we're going to be working on at I Am Green. We're also going to be doing a book club. And of course, our book club is going to be talking about how to be self-sufficient on a 1/4 of an acre of land or less. So definitely check us out at I Am Green on Facebook, or Maria Muhammad _ I Am Green on Instagram, so that you can stay tuned and get in on the challenges.
Awesome. Woo woo, Maria Muhammad, ladies and gentlemen. And Steph, what are you up to in the world, and how can we continue to support you?
Well, it's been a tough week, and so I haven't really been doing a whole lot. But one of the things I have been doing is exploring how to incorporate our student athletes and get them back to where they need to go. Simply because in our minority communities, a lot of the path and way forward is through athletics. And now that they're not competing within the school sites, they're using some more of their club activities to to offset and really highlight some of their skills, which unfortunately some of their education is lacking because of that. So I've spent last week really trying to craft and hone a program through our etap.org/adaptive learning platform, combined with our classroom app, to be able to support the student athletes in a more strategic and holistic way. And in fact, using that in conjunction with their private and club level workouts and such, tied that into the clearinghouse of student athletes, we're able to really help them highlight again and help their athletic directors and coaches put them back into the spotlight for that possible scholarship to get back to college and get to the next level. So I spent a lot of last week doing that type of work, and very humbled by that. Also would like to celebrate and say it was National Coffee Day last week, and I just really want to celebrate that through Legacy Parenting Survival Brew. A lot of marketing campaign went out for that because we want to support parents through this time, and that's why it's Legacy Parenting Survival Brew. It's coffee that works for you, and so we're supporting parents that way.
Awesome.
That's what I've been up to. How about you?
Well, you know, I'm always up to something miraculous, but I think what I really want to talk about is our network. So here at the UA 360 network, we are starting to create some fantastic movie nights. And so if you don't know me, I love watching movies. I love television. I'm just a TV kid. But we're going to be having our movie nights. We'll actually be talking about the movies and getting into, you know, kind of the background and the insights. And so coming here in a few weeks or so, we're going to launch our movie night. So look forward to that. And also, just as a reminder, C4GS, our Communities for Global Sustainability, will be building in Paradise, California. And many people might not know that Paradise was a fire victim for as a fault of the electric company. And so we're going to be helping some people get back into their homes on their land that burned down due to the fires. Really excited about that opportunity and getting people back in their homes through our modular building product, where we can get people up and running in 4 to 6 weeks. So really excited about that. And also here on the network, we're always looking for amazing content creators. So check us out on the email below, and we will be glad to get back to you and talk to you about getting on the network.
That is great news. And thank you, Dr. Jackson. And again, we speak that power into existence. We know that you're in the final home stretch. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You can see that band across the finish line. And we wish you well, support you, and honor you that way. You're setting the example. You know, you're setting the example that we expect our children to achieve. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And a shining example as a Black man taking up a principalship. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy.
A lot of good learning.
Let alone a superintendentship, mind you.
I appreciate it. A lot of good learning. You all are very kind. And
so Maria, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Oh, no, just take care of ourselves. Do what we can to decompress and unplug as much as possible. Find a quiet place with just ourselves and maybe some coffee. And just, you're welcome. And just really take some time to center ourselves, and so we can be prepared for everything that's coming and everything that's here. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much, Maria. So you've been listening to another episode of Got School and Get Resources. And so we are honored to have you. Remember to check us out, like us, subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, where you can always get additional resources. And remember, I'm going to do that again because I just read my thing twice. Let me start over. 3, 2. You've been watching another episode of Got School, Get Resources, a forum created to help you get the resources you need for distance learning and meet some new people. We formed a community here, so we hope that you'll reach out to us. Remember to like, share, and comment below. That's how we know we're doing a good job. We want to know that we're doing right by you, and reaching out to those parents and homeschoolers that are really needing the support in this time. And lastly, if you have any non-linear educational resources that you'd like us to engage with for any age, we're also going to be doing a few more shows, so reach out to us in the email below. And that does it. You've been watching Got School. We'll be here next week, same bat time, same bat channel.
Yep.